Yes, greetings to the family. Dr. David Roots, aka Living Roots. Growing food is one of the most revolutionary, if not the most revolutionary act that you can perform in terms of bringing about your liberation. I'm standing here in front of a cherry tree. Right now I'm in London. One day I hope to, I'm from the island of Bermuda, or at least that's where I was born. One day I hope to move forward into other lands and set up a self-sustaining a lifestyle, liberty as we call it amongst the Rasta, as the family gets older and I can leave those sorts of responsibilities behind and let them benefit on the earn from the earned work. The reasoning I'm giving though is that growing your own food and being self-sustaining is both revolutionary and it's liberating. Why? Well, by the act of growing your own food, and I want to say this cherry tree behind me, that's where I was going. It's a British cherry tree, but it's my cherry tree, and you can see it's quite prolific. I have to put a little net around it because the birds are gonna eat some. I always eat a lot. I always leave a lot exposed for the birds to eat because they need theirs as well. And in the UK they have what's called allotment. So this isn't my land. This is just a piece of land that I sort of pay a small fee on, and I'm surrounded by other allotment holders. But this act of growing your own food is revolutionary and is liberating, in particular when you can be self-sustaining, whether that is growing your own fruits, your own vegetables, harvesting your own water, and of course even if that meant having a small holding of where you had chickens or what other animals you ever needed. Now what would make this act even more revolutionary, okay, is if you had your family involved, if you had your partner involved. Imagine that. If you were in a relationship with your partner, king and queen, and family, and you grew food together. Because growing food isn't easy. It is easy, but it's hard work, put it that way. You know, it's a lot of work, and of course, the more that are involved, the work gets easier. So imagine, you know, you're working together, the appreciation that you would show each other for that work, especially at the end of harvest. How you would give thanks when you're able to harvest from your hard work, and it would bring alive those principles that we talk about, for example, in Kwanzaa, which is the harvest festival of the fresh fruits. It actually brings alive those principles when you're actually doing those things. So imagine if you're not doing it as an individual, but you're doing it as a family. And then imagine that if you were doing that on land that you earned, or land that was generational, and you were using generational seeds. So seeds that came from your great-great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-grandmother. Imagine how revolutionary and how liberating that would be, that act would be. Yeah? As a family. Imagine the energy collection that you would have, and you and your family, your wife, your children are out there harvesting in the sun, in the rain, and imagine the types of downloads from nature that you would receive because you were out there in nature and in tune and exposed to the rawness of nature, the wind blowing, the sun shining, the lightning and thunder at times, all the different signals across the seasons that you would be in tune with because you're out on the land, exposed to the land. Imagine the freedom of your children. You know, right now, your child is probably, you know, watching TV or on a tablet. I know mine's probably is. I left him some work to do, some maths work to do. And but the reality is he's going to finish that maths work, and when I get back he'll probably be on his device. So imagine, and when he gets older I bring him out here, you know, to all those people. I definitely bring him out here to the garden, and when he gets older he's going to be able to help more with the work. But imagine the amount of liberation it will be for them, okay, to be in the garden with you as a family, to be away from the devices and to see those things that are modeled in that three-dimensional, two-dimensional world that two-dimensional world that they're trying to make three-dimensional. Imagine how expensive their brains and their reality will become. Imagine their fitness, how fit they would be, how strong they would be, because they're out there in the garden, you know, out there on the land, working the land, moving the earth. So when we talk about revolution and we talk about liberation in terms of planting and gardening and growing your food, it's along many different perspectives. Right here, you see behind me, I'm growing my cherry trees. Well, they're growing on its own. And in front of me, I have some corn growing, pumpkin, tomato as they say over here, cucumber, my favorite, one of my favorites, lots of onions trying to grow. The things I grow, what I eat. I don't just grow things just to grow. I grow the things I eat. And most of the people over here, to be honest, are retired people. You know, so you wait until you're older and you're retired when you have more time, and then you come in and you grow. And those are some of the best growers. But imagine if we lived in a society where you had those elders, the wisdom that they have, because they are master growers, the people, the elders that are around me. They put my plot to shame. So imagine if we were in that environment, our children were in that environment with them, you know, on a day-to-day basis, passing on the wisdom. This is why this act of planting a seed and growing with your children is so revolutionary. And to be honest, you see a pattern here in this allotment, for example, because you see many of the people of African descent. There's a lot of Jamaicans here, people like myself who are from Bermuda or were born in Bermuda. And then you also see a lot of people from Madeira and the Azores. And then of course you have the British white English. And one of the patterns that you clearly see is that the British white English, they tend to farm as partners, as couples. And the people from the Caribbean, like myself, we tend to be by ourselves. And it's generally men. There's a few women around, but generally men. But the people from Madeira, they come as a community. Right now, I'm actually looking out to one, and they're there with their family, and they can really grow food. They can grow food. And I think a big part of that is that it's such an embedded part of their culture. And when they come, they grow with the whole family. You see the older ladies coming and they're doing the cooking, you know, on the side, outside cooking. The men are doing the labor and the women are in that supportive role. And there's joy and music and food, you know, so it makes the act of growing food that much easier. But we don't really have that in our community, you know. So imagine the revolution, that the revolutionary act of how it will bring families together, couples together, how strong the couples will be. And of course, if you could together, you can talk about all the other things that might be bothering you. You could talk about the group economics. You can talk about the family issues, the marriage issues, the children issues, you know, the auntie, uncle issues, so on and so on. And you can build generational wealth and generational health. So I want you to imagine, I was sitting out here and thinking about that to myself, and thinking how there's so many people out here on the internet. There's so much information in the digital age, and everything's through a screen, you know. But I did a video on connection versus consciousness, and having consciousness is not necessarily connection. And a big part of connecting with your divine self and with the oneness is being out in nature. And so the true revolutionary act, I guess, in growing food is the potential for you to connect with yourself and thereby connect with the divine. I mean, growing food then, and planting food and reaping and connecting with nature, almost in that sense, is a divine act. There's a reason why scripture like the Bible and other holy books talk about gardens. and seeds and reaping what you sow and trees and even the red, gold, and green behind me. So I'll leave that with you. If we want to really, truly continue, and if we talk about sustainability, you know, right now the whole world is concerned with climate change and fossil fuels running out, and the sustainability is from the sustainer, from the earth, and connecting it with the earth more. The more we connect with the earth, the more our technologies will be sustainable. This is true revolution. David Roots, living roots. We all look at the leaves and the flowers, but it's the roots that have to be strong. If not, the structure withers away. And we have to focus on what makes our roots strong. Togetherness, unity. Give thanks.